I picked this reading for this service because when I read this poem, it reminds me of Mary Lou, whom I've known for many years. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. So, Mary Lou, I know that you have a birthday coming up.
Yes.
Can you tell us when was your birthday? When were you born? Where were you born?
My birthday is July 7th. I was born in 1934, right at the time of the end of the Depression's worst times, and the war and everything.
Right. Where were you born?
I was born in Decatur, Illinois, because there wasn't any place in this little community where we lived in Griffin, Indiana, to have a hospital or anything.
Okay.
And so I was born in Decatur, Illinois. During the war, we were up in Lakeville, Indiana, which is near Chicago area, and Michigan and all that. And my mother made jock straps for the army. She sat at a sewing machine for the whole 8 hours a day.
Wow.
And then there was a whole room full of these sewing machines making all the clothes for the army. And my dad was a welder, and he, of course, he was a school teacher and principal and everything, and also he was very into politics. He was a big Democrat, and he helped set up the big convention in Chicago and all that. Which at that time that I was able to be. I was teaching up in that part of the state, and I was able to go to all the convention things because my mother was down in southern Indiana. So I got to have that experience, which I consider something very important to me.
So your dad was a Roosevelt Democrat?
Absolutely. Yeah. Truman, and he just was for the people rather than the corporations. That was his feeling, that we had to help educate, but it was education that was his whole thing, to help people so they could learn and think, and just get words, because you can't think without words, and so you got to start in there and help people get going on it. He was so intent on education and on helping people find a voice to be involved, and also just to get people enough food and everything. There was a great hunger problem and everything, and then of course the wartime was just a horrendous time. I mean, everything was closed, and you just, there was no school going on or anything. I mean, it's just hard to fathom.
Right.
And the church was important, and we were Methodists, and we lived upstairs. First, we just had one room in this home, and I could. They put me in the nurseries at the Methodist church there, and then somebody brought me home, and all. I mean, it was just during that wartime. It was just families were not able to operate like we think.
Right.
We do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So after the war, you were probably what, 12, 13? You were a teenager by then?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And did you always know that you were going to go to college? Was that something that they wanted?
That was predetermined by my parents.
No question.
And in fact, they were always going to school themselves. They were always getting the next teaching license or the next degree that they needed, and they took me along and put me wherever. Often I was part of their thing because I would be, if it was a teaching situation, I'd be one of the students that was in their whole show there. And so I just kind of went with the flow of the whole thing, and I never resented anything. I never wanted to be doing something different, and I was very compliant. I mean, it was fine with me.
And you liked being with your parents, right?
Yeah, I did.
When you went off to college, was that hard for your parents, and what was the process to get there?
Well, I was going to college while they were teaching night school and everything, and I was smart, and I wanted to be there and do it, and so I just they paid for me to take the classes, and I just did that and did all the work. And
you went to IU, right?
Well, this was down in Evansville.
Okay. And
then that then became more IU. The colleges got together, and everything kind of got straightened out in the education system. I loved being in Bloomington, and I was a Chi Omega. I loved working in that milieu of women working together and trying to do good things, and we had rules, and we had and I ended up being president of Panhellenic, so that I didn't get to do a lot of things in the Chi Omega realm because I was involved and could not take part. I mean, that was forbidden. And so I kind of got into student government kind of stuff, and that was real important to me. Definitely wanted a teaching license, and I wanted to be able to teach. I wanted to end up being able to teach all levels, and so I wanted to teach teachers how to teach, and I was really I was just steaming along, loving that, and my parents were delighted, that I was, they didn't ever have to worry about me.
So you and Tom met when you were at school at Dyer, when you were teaching.
Yes.
From Mrs. Ames.
Mrs. Ainsley. And Mrs. Ainsley really was a matchmaker. And she had us come to her house, and she encouraged us, and it didn't take long. I felt that it's the closest thing to love at first sight. When I never ever thought that made sense at all.
Right.
But I really fell for Lefty, and he did for me too.
Sweet. So you got married after a couple years.
We got married in Beck Chapel at IU, and it was brand new. In fact, it was not completed, and we walked over sawdust and boards and everything to get to the front, to the altar. And we had a beautiful wedding there, and Dr. Beck himself married us, and of course it's named after him.
So tell us what Columbus was like when you moved here.
There was hardly anything here, if you can imagine that. But you know, the train came here, the road, but it was not much of a road like we think of roads today. And Lefty came with George Wineland and David Elwood to start the Mental Health Center, and that's what it was called. And that was the first time anybody knows of mental and health being used in the same sentence. This was very innovative. I mean, we were ahead of other places in this state. And so they jumped right into that, and then soon it became a 5-county thing, and they took in that whole regional area. And then after that it got formed into, okay, well, we've got the whole state here to divide into these areas.
So tell us a little bit more about what you were doing while Tom was busy with his mental health center.
Well, so I was at the Girls Club of Columbus, and this was a new thing too. I mean, and then from Girls Club came Foundation for Youth, which was the whole umbrella kind of thing that made allowed for monies to be collected and dispersed, and channels to be built within the state, and to really tie that whole field together.
You were talking about your son came home from playing with the neighborhood kids.
He said that there were devils under the ground, and in fact he wanted to dig, and he was very interested in the place where we were. He wanted to take the floorboards up, and he wanted to go after that. I said to myself, Mary Lou, we got to get this kid over to Bloomington to it was a Unitarian church.
Okay.
There was not a Universalist connection yet, but I basically was taking him over there to get him some input, and then of course I went to the meetings of the church, and boy did I start getting interested, and we had a very, very good minister, and I remember feeling very, very good about it. And I thought about it all week. Just it was a new thing to get into thinking about that realm of.
Yeah. And so you start talking to your friends here about it? Getting other people interested?
Well, Bill Lyon was instrumental here. He was a Unitarian.
That's
actually.
right. Yeah.
And he and Lisa had moved here, and he had this meeting where we got people together. We were in the unfinished basement of the Home Federal building, which was brand new, and this empty basement area, and we invited people to, if they were interested. People came in, and we got going.
It's been 55 years or something, and you were just there visiting a couple weeks ago, and Can you talk about any highlights?
The search for calmness and the and well-being was pervasive in the feeling I got from this.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, this was just a place to take the kids on Sunday. They didn't want to take their kids to the other church things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a playground and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
and we, not secretly, but we were, of course, being Unitarians.
Mm-hmm.
as we
You became a humanist, it seems like,
yeah.
right? Over time.
Yeah, the humanism thing, that was a new word completely.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that spiked a lot of reading on my part.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that part of never having enough time to read as much as I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so busy also trying to grow everything we had to eat and live on our own lot and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We had just about an acre of ground
Mm-hmm.
here. There was no lake here or anything at the time.
Right.
And but we right away were trying to grow everything we ate here.
What does it feel like, thinking back all the way there, that the congregation's still here today, like, and it's grown a lot, and it's just so much different than when you founded it? What does it mean to you?
Oh my goodness, well, I was frightened that it would disappear. And but Bill Lyon was already a Unitarian. He was so that we had that beginning, and that was just major.
Mm-hmm.
And then our first pastor,
Roger.
Nick's father-in-law.
Oh, that's right.
So how does it feel now, knowing that the church is thriving and doing well and we're getting new members? Does that feel good?
Oh my gosh. Right, because of being afraid that it could disappear. And then when the larger body became Unitarian Universalist, that was all the more. And it was all, it just all carried back even into Germany and into all of the growing up of liberal religious thought.
Mm-hmm.
And oh yeah, and it was a relief to me that I didn't have to worry about
Yeah. Well, it's
staying
good,
alive.
right? Yeah. It's good that it's going strong.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I was just that immersed, you know.
Sure. Thought it was all on you, right? Nice to know that it's going strong and,
Oh, my.
and functioning and
It's a huge pleasure of my life.
uh-huh.
And I'm serious about that. I'm just immersed in it. It's so important to me.
Good. Yeah, it's an important place.
Yeah, and I do think that I said, it was scary because I was afraid they might, torch us sometime, and people didn't like it that we were liberal and we had these ideas that were contrary to this. So we were like the ones that in the past were torched and driven away.
Mm-hmm.
But as it happened, people started coming from out of the county and everywhere else and helped make us grow and carried the feeling of liberal thought to their own communities, and it's really spread a lot around the part of the state. I'm serious, around
Absolutely.
the part of the state.
Yeah,
So so that
it's
was
been a great thing.
yeah, and people are able to be more relaxed, knowing there is a place you can go and you're not pressured, and you can find out if these people are crazy or not in your thinking, and you can be as seeking as you care to be, or you can just get a place to put your kids on Sunday so you can take it easy and then go eat out after church time.